All right. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are thrilled to have you here for Pivot TV webinar number 4. Oh boy, I have to not be on YouTube and the stream at the same time. That would be helpful. This session is going to be recorded, and so if you need to dip out early, it'll always be here. We're very, very excited to welcome our guest, Dana Blumberg, who is very, very cool, and we're going to ask some great questions of her tonight. So we're going to break the conversation down into 2 parts. Part 1 is just a conversation. I'll ask some questions, hopefully get some answers, and then we'll have a little Q&A afterwards. If anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And yeah, without further ado, I'm excited and thrilled to welcome our guest, Dana Blumberg. Dana is a seasoned HR and operations leader with experience across startups and global enterprises, currently serving as the VP of People at Merchology. Prior to Merchology, Dana was VP of People at Novel Energy Solutions, where she developed strategic hiring and compensation plans while ensuring compliance with the Inflation Reduction Act. Before that, she scaled HR processes for Light Iron, a post-production services company based out of Hollywood, during their growth and acquisition by Panavision. She also spearheaded a major office renovation at Drip, fostering collaborative and inclusive workplace cultures throughout her career. Please join me in welcoming Dana Blumberg. Welcome, Dana. Thank you for joining.
Welcome. And it's Blumberg, but that's okay.
It's Blumberg. It's Blumberg. I have many friends named Bloomberg and Blumberg, and I was like 50-50.
We went for it.
We tried it. Welcome, Dana. So I guess initially just briefly walk us through the start of your career and how you ended up in entertainment. Tell us what you loved working about working in entertainment while you were at Light Iron.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hello, and I join you from the North Pole. I am actually in Minnesota, and it's like very cold. It's 1 degree right now.
Oh, single digits. Great.
Yeah. Today was cold, but it's going to get warmer tomorrow.
Good.
So I have a theater degree from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I moved to LA after graduation with my then boyfriend, now husband, who's upstairs putting the children to bed. We were going to be actors, the both of us, and then we got out to LA and we were like, oh no, this is horrible. We're not going to do any of this nonsense game. We just want to play that game, but we both got jobs in the industry. I did a bunch of bartending and until I landed at first Plaster City Digital Post, which was before Light Iron, and then over to Light Iron when that started. And I was I was the office manager, and I was in charge of the vault. And I'm a person who, when I see a hole, I want to fill it and I want to help. And we needed help in kind of HR and like administration, invoicing, billing. And so at Plaster City, and then I kind of parlayed that over to Light Iron, where I was employee, I think, number 4. And I did, I set up all the billing practices, but I also wrote the handbook and set up the internship program and worked on hiring and talent development until Light Iron was acquired by Panavision. And then they had their own corporate HR, but I still was the on-site HR because Woodland Hills is another universe from Hollywood, as we all know. And so the driving back and forth, I was still the liaison. And so I was on-site HR. So I really just kind of fell into it, but I loved it. And, a lot of customer service in my background. And so talking to people is easy. And I'm also like the mom. I'm everyone's mom. I'm the caretaker. So that's really what being in HR is. And then I have a couple of children, and as one of them was getting towards school age and one of them was an infant, my husband and I realized we wanted to raise them in Minnesota. And so he was a development executive for a television studio, and I worked in post-production, and we're like, let's go live in Minnesota. And so HR can parlay to a bunch of different industries, and that's what I've done. I was in tech, and then I moved to the solar industry, and now I'm in retail and merchandising. And so long-winded, kind of all around the industry. My husband went to school, back to school here in Minnesota, and got his teaching degree, and now he's a middle school teacher for theater and drama. So,
Nice. Can you say a little bit more about the kind of specific skills that you gained from working in either entertainment or HR that kind of helped you navigate the professional world?
I mean, I just being able to talk to people, being able to problem solve, I think critically think. It's, people are people. It doesn't matter what industry they're in. And I think it just depends on the kind of employee. Some employees need a little bit more support, some need more development, and some need that feedback in different ways. So really working with different people and working in startup companies really taught me how laws and regulations and how to protect the company and how to protect the employees. It isn't just about momming and making sure that, they have what they need. It's protecting the company and protecting them. And then again, that translates across to all industries.
What are some things that you really like about working with people? I mean, right, your title is VP of People. What are the things that I guess aspects of your personality that draw you to that type of role?
My son asked me when I was in my latest job search, what do you even do? And I was like, well, I help people find and love their jobs. I think that's the biggest thing about being the VP of People, because, it's regulations and compliance, but really the training and development part of my job is what I love the most. It's what gets me out of bed in the morning. I really love hiring an intern and, helping them through the company. And then one day they're the director of sales. Like, that's so rad to me.
That's great. And it sounds very, very rewarding. What advice would you give to people who are job seekers coming from entertainment, who are looking to articulate their transferable skills from a creative industry to roles outside of film and TV?
Yeah, I think it's so good to be well-rounded. And I think, critical thinking, people skills, problem solving, strategy, those are things that can translate a lot. So, when I first moved out here too, I was looking into a lot of like project manager jobs, and there's project manager jobs in all industry. You can have that in sales, you can have it in tech, you can have it in, corporate banking, even. Like, everybody needs a project manager. So if you can tailor your experience to the job posting, and you can fill that hole pretty much everywhere. So I think that's a really good place to start. And even if you have even a little bit of HR in your background, you can mold that experience, and that everybody needs HR. Like, no one's going to be able to AI their way out of having at least an HR presence at some point in their company. And so that's always going to be something that transfers.
And for people who are pivoting, what kind of strategies would you give them in terms of tailoring their resume or their cover letter, telling their story, and I guess customize? Is it necessary to customize per job posting, per role?
I don't think your entire resume you don't need to customize, but what I like to do is I like to have bullet pointed keywords up at the top of like your strengths. And then speaking of AI, I do like to I took my resume and the job posting and dropped them into the search box in ChatGPT, and I said, make me keywords for the top of my resume that match this job posting. And then I would just swap those around, PDF a new resume, and that's what I would submit for to the recruiter or to whoever, the job poster.
That's great.
So yeah, lean on that.
Yeah. And when people are kind of moving their way through that process, I've heard a lot of people talking about how they're kind of losing confidence in that job search process as they keep on applying to more and more jobs and getting nothing back.
Discouraging. Yeah.
Yeah. What advice do you give to people who are kind of running up against that wall?
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be not helpful, but I also was running up against that. And I met with this executive coach. My job right now, I started in July. And so it was was on a couple of month job search, and he was like, people apply to like 500 to 700 jobs in their job search usually. And I was like, pfft. And then I went back and I started like counting on LinkedIn, just LinkedIn and the job. And I was like, oh, I'm up like 300. Like it was a lot. So I think the best advice that he gave me was like, don't get discouraged like that, but you're probably not going to get hired by applying to jobs on LinkedIn. You're going to get hired by knowing someone who knows someone who needs someone. And so the more that you can network, the better it is. You know, you do have to do it on LinkedIn, which is kind of sometimes a trash hole lately. Like it's way different than it was 5 years ago. I still think it's a useful tool. I certainly use it as a recruiter for my business, but I think you need to do a couple things. You need to make your presence known on there. So make sure that your profile is up to date, that you have an up-to-date photo. Like I had the same photo on there for like, I don't know, 15 years because I didn't need a job, right? But so update the photo, make it a realistic photo. Make sure that the profile matches your resume. I do not like it when I am looking at a candidate because I look at both and either the LinkedIn doesn't match or like it's not updated. So make sure you don't have to list out your whole resume, but you should have your key points in each job. You need to really comb through it. I didn't realize that I had a link. I used to have a food blog, you know, back in the days when everyone had a food blog, and I had linked to that on my LinkedIn. And this one recruiter was like, "Why do you have this on here?" And I was like, "I don't actually know." So really like click through your profile, make sure it's all up to date. And then you need to seek out recruiters, like agencies. Like here in Minnesota, there's an agency called Skywater Search Partners. There's Verseek. There's national search firms. You know, just kind of follow the people. That's how they're finding you, right? Like they're going through LinkedIn, but you want to follow, you want to like their postings, you want to interact. You can't just like things. You've got to comment, and that'll boost the algorithm, right? Make your own original posts, which again, I would find an HR article that I liked and thought it was interesting, and I would head on over to ChatGPT and I'm like, write me a LinkedIn post about this article, and it was like full of emojis and like it did it. So like then you can make it your own, but when you're doing this daily, it becomes a grind, and so take the help where you can get it, and that's going to increase your presence and your profile on LinkedIn, and that will get you noticed by recruiters.
That's great. And in terms of what, going back to that networking, the networking point you made, what are some effective ways to network besides just like reaching out to people? How do you approach informational interviews, and how does someone get them?
Yeah, I mean, I did so much networking. It's in person. If you can go to events too, like there's always HR events. I'm sure there's events for every industry that you're in. Like you just need to seek out the groups that you want to be in. Twin Cities Society of Human Resource Management, SHRM, was where I started. And then it was like, I met this person and then I went to this event and I got all these business cards and it was like, you should do this. So you got to turn that like socialization on. It really is a job, getting a job. And so that's because then it's like, oh, I know this person who's looking for this person. I'll give them your resume, right? And the recruiters really want to get you placed, because if they get you placed, then they know, oh, John's going to call me when he's looking for someone, right? So everybody scratches at everybody's back. So you really have to put yourself out there. You've got to go out and meet people, even if it's just to go have a coffee and, you know, make that connection. And even if it's 6 months later, that person's like, oh, I remember that John guy. He seemed great. Let me see if they're ready for this job or they're qualified for this job.
Yeah, that's great. In terms of that being qualified for roles, what do you see? I mean, have you seen other people from entertainment pivoting out of it? And what kind of misconceptions do recruiters have about candidates pivoting from creative places like entertainment or elsewhere?
I mean, I had a friend who was an entertainment attorney, and I remember when he moved away from LA, he's like, I can't get interviews because everybody thinks, it's like, what does an entertainment lawyer do? But he ended up getting a really great job in contracting and negotiation. It's like, obviously so it's just, you kind of got to break that through. Sometimes people in interviews will be like, tell me about what did you do? But it's what you have to do is take your experience, like I was saying in the beginning, and parlay it to what the job is needing. Or you could go back to school and get a teaching degree, right? Like, but use that, I think negotiating with agents is probably easier than negotiating with the middle school students that he has to work with every day. So I think it's just take what you love and, use that industry knowledge that you have to parlay it into something else that makes you feel passionate about what you do. Because everybody needs that.
Yeah.
And it's always it's a great talking point. It's a great starting point. It's like, oh, who did you meet? What did you work on? And so it's a nice foot in the door.
People tend to be excited by that when they see that on your resume. They see a show that they know on your resume and they're like, hey, tell me about that. That seems cool.
They want the gossip.
Yeah. So this is a little bit trickier. What advice might you give someone who kind of feels stuck in their current career, but they're not really sure what they want to do next, and they have a seemingly endless number of options to choose from? Like, what do you tell that person?
I think you want to think about what do you want to do? What makes you happy? What makes you feel jazzed? I think it's good to research like top companies in your area or even national companies that, remote work is still definitely a thing. Find companies that you admire and look at their job postings. Maybe something will spark joy. But I think, both of those things, if you can think about where you want to be here and then kind of find maybe your muddled path there, utilize, you can comb through LinkedIn, you can comb through Indeed, try to find things that sound interesting to you. And then, okay, let's see what kind of overlap my experience has and go from there. I think if you can find, it's always great to have a mentor that even is inside or outside of your industry, just to be like, hey, can I pick your brain for a few minutes? I found this executive coach through a friend of a friend. He's like, my friend's an executive coach. Do you want to talk to him about your job search? And I was like, oh my God, yes. And he gave me all this really great advice. And he was the one who was like 500 to 700 jobs. And even though that was like a stark ouch, yikes, it also was a nice wake-up call. And I was feeling down in the dumps. It is really easy to feel stressed about how long a job search is taking, but it's good. It was a good reality check, and it kind of spurred me on to keep going.
What were some other things that kind of, apart from networking and talking to an executive coach, that you felt strongly impacted your ability to find something that you loved?
I looked into consulting a little bit, which is also across industries. Everybody needs that. There's a national company called Korn Ferry, Korn with a K, and there are all kinds of consulting jobs. So that was a really cool thing. I just signed up on their website, and it was also great practice interviewing because their recruiters who look for consultants have to interview a couple times. You have to make like a business profile about yourself to try to sell yourself. So it's like, you get to work for yourself, only another companies out there like placing you. So I highly recommend Korn Ferry or another like executive or project management placement firm. That was really, and it's so funny too, because I started getting a bunch of like full-time job interviews right when I started getting like, we want to place you. And it was like, when it rains, it pours. But ultimately I decided, that kind of full-time stability was what I wanted. But it was also really interesting to think about. I get really emotionally involved in my work. Yeah. But it was interesting to think about like flying in and like helping fix a place and not getting so quite emotionally involved, and then like flying out like, goodbye, be better. So that sounded really interesting to me, but then Merchology came along and I knew that was the place for me.
It's a bit Dorothy and Oz. I'll miss you most of all, Strawman. Scarecrow, that's the one, not Strawman.
He's made a straw.
Yeah, he's made a straw. Do you have any advice for managing what I'm sure people encounter a lot when coming out of entertainment, which is this feeling of imposter syndrome that they don't belong in a new industry or role? What do you tell those people?
Goodness, I don't know. I mean, you're not an imposter. You're a human with transferable skills, and you've got a really unique thing about you. So, like, make it a positive. It's not a negative. The entertainment industry is really, really hard to get into and succeed in, and you've done it. And you're making this choice to do whatever, move to Minnesota to raise your family, to move wherever else, or to expand your horizons, broaden it. Like, don't let anybody tell you that's a negative that you worked in the entertainment industry. I think it's super rad and a conversation starter.
I love that. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever given or received about navigating a career change or career stuff in general?
I think don't stop learning. I think that's really important because there's always more stuff to learn and get out there, and the life experience is going to bring to the table. I've got my theater degree, and I think it's super funny, but it's the experience and the learning that gets you there. I don't have an HR background, but I took care of people for so long, but I got to a point where it was like, kind of like what you were saying with imposter syndrome. It was like, well, what qualifications do you have for this? So I did go and get the SHRM certificate, which there's a couple of different HR certifications. And that was super hard, but I was super proud of myself. I'm not a test taker, and that it was like Scantron times 1,000. So I think if there are certifications in what you're interested in, you can do that. If you get a LinkedIn professional license, I think it's like $50 a month. I can't remember what it's called. It's $50 a month. Yeah. You can see who's looking at your profile. You can see who's creeping on you, which is really great. Be like, ooh, this recruiter looked at me. And then you can go look at them and try to connect with them. That also gets you access to LinkedIn Learning and LinkedIn certifications, which are kind of like, it's not as big as a degree or a certification, but I think there's really great courses that can help in all kinds of industries there. And that, you might take a course in, I don't know, corporate social responsibility, or even AI as it applies to project management or to HR. And then that might be like, oh, this is like a very pinpointed area that I'm interested in. And it might spur you to look at jobs that you wouldn't have otherwise looked at. So yeah, keep learning. There's tons of podcasts too about recruitment, HR, finding jobs. Like, there's a podcast, everybody has a podcast. So check it out. Keep learning. Those are all really great resources.
And last one that I kind of have is, what are some mess ups? What are some mistakes that you see people making that you're like, don't do that. Stop doing that.
Don't send your resume as a Word file. Please don't. It makes me so angry. Like, the formatting can get messed up when you're emailing it. Like, if I get something from a Hotmail address in a Word doc, like, I'm already judging you. I'm sorry. Like, that's just what's happening. And I'm not the only one. So PDF those resumes. Don't put a picture on it. Don't put your headshot with it. That's the one thing that you gotta, even when I worked for Light Iron, like, we weren't a casting agency. I wasn't putting you in any roles. Like, I was checking your stuff into a vault. Like, I don't want your headshot. So don't do that. I would say, really use your editing skills on your resume. It should never be longer than 2 pages, even if you're at the executive level. We get, 200 submissions. I'm not going to read probably past the first half of your page, honestly. And a lot of places use the electronic scanners for your resume, and that's where they're really looking for those keywords at the top, like I spoke at the beginning with your bullet points. But yeah, really edit your resume. Don't use tiny font. Don't use like big blocks of text. You want to bullet points are your friend. Talk about results instead of what, your actual job description. Talk about what you did with like qualitative results. That's really going to be eye-catching.
Yeah.
Put a little personality on it. You can't have, unless you're applying for a super sweet like graphic design job, your resume needs to be readable by the scanners. It can't have a ton of like graphic design on it. But put a little of yourself in it. Like, the top of mine it's in hot pink, and my, my name and like contact info. And then the rest is in, the black. But even that little touch, I had a couple of people like, I just love the top of your resume, and it already, you're a sunny person, and I can already tell like that you're positive. So even goofy little touches like that can make you stand out.
That's great. I'm going to ask you to send your resume so I can look at it.
Yes, I will. Yeah.
So we got a question from someone else here, asking for someone who might have 12 plus years of experience in entertainment, but is trying to shift to a new career in HR. Do you think it's realistic to still apply to mid-level roles, or aim for lower level and just try to learn from there?
What kind of experience, can I ask, in entertainment? What is your background?
Oh, that's a good question. I think there's like a 6-second delay, so we might have to wait for a second.
Come back to it. But I would say, so my title at Light Iron was first office manager, and then I was like the director of facilities and like billing, because I was on the finance team and I took care of the actual facility, but I was also doing invoicing, ARA, AP, and HR was nowhere in my title. And that was one, a very nice recruiter who, a lot of times you have an interview and then they never get back to you. And I always ask for feedback. And this person actually got back to me. He was like, your title, none of your titles say HR. Even though your experience had all of these HR things that I was doing. She was like, no one, no one's, like I said, no one's going to read past the first half page sometimes. So I changed the title on my resume, which, it feels like lying, but it's not. Like I did say to the recruiter, I was like, but that wasn't my title. And they're like, they're not going to check. They don't care. I have never, ever called a company and been like, was this actually their title? So I changed in my resume. It's like director of HR and, facilities, right? So if you can parlay that, whatever industry experience you have, into something that is going to catch their eye, it's okay. You should do that. Obviously, don't make up your job, but you can fudge on the title.
So we got a response back. Script coordinator and executive assistant, as well as associate producer, are the roles that they have had in their 12-year career.
Amazing. HR is all about producing different things. I would say if you can get a little bit of HR, there's all kinds of HR courses on LinkedIn Learning. I would start there, but you could apply for a specialist, like an HR specialist job, or an HR administrator. And if you could get your foot in the door that way, those are both really great ways to get that foot in the door. HR business partner, maybe if you could talk about, like, business partner is a project manager. The business partner partners with the business to bring in talent. So like maybe they're a talent recruiter, or maybe they're all about training and development. So if you have development or compensation experience, like that's what a business partner does. So they're partnering with special units in the business to do that. So I think those are all places you could start.
Great. I'm going to say last call for any questions. Q&A last call. Q&A last call.
His hand. He's got a question.
Yes. Wait.
Yes, Mr. Blumberg.
Yes, Mr. Blumberg. I don't see him on there.
No,
Is he in the tree? Is he in the tree?
No.
I do see a California tournament. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't think we're getting any more questions.
Okay.
So I think we're going to call it there. And I'm going to just say thank you so much, Dana, for joining and for sharing your insights. It's been really, really fun getting to chat with you and ask you questions. And I will get that resume from you.
Yeah, I'll send you my resume, because I actually paid someone to make it like into a format that's readable by scanners, and I'm happy to save anybody like that money. So like take it, copy it, do whatever you want. I'll send it to you, John. I also made a couple of like do's and don'ts on resume slides that I can send you to, that you can send to anybody.
Oh, you know what? Can we look at those really quick?
Sure,
Let's do it. Let me see if you should be able to present by hitting the button at the bottom of the screen. I totally forgot about the slides.
That's okay. Computers are hard. Find my.
Maybe this. No.
I shouldn't work in IT, that's for sure. Oh my gosh. This is great content we got going here.
That's cool.
Present, but then where did my presentation go? Oh, it's on Safari.
Ah.
There we go. Okay, so if I go back to you and I say present, share screen. I don't want to see your tips. Oh, no, it wants open system settings.
Oh, no.
I don't know if
it's okay. We've got time.
Okay.
I'm patient. We can also edit this stuff out.
Right? We're definitely going to do that. I don't know.
No, nothing?
Adam's standing here like, do you want me to come help?
Hi, Adam.
He's waving. Select a tab to share.
And if not, that's totally
Oh,
cool.
it wants me to, I have to share in Chrome, and it's on Safari. Hold on. Let me grab.
If we can't get it to work in another minute, we can call it and you can send. But
Okay.
I believe in you. I believe in you.
I am a problem solver, and I can solve this problem. Oh, son of a gun. It wants me to sign in. Oh my God. Okay, wait. I may have done it.
Oh yeah. There we go.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So there's my resume, do's and don'ts. It's kind of what we went through.
Yeah.
Gotta have good formatting. It's got to be clear and concise unless it's for a design job. Bullet points, use ChatGPT, highlight your achievements, not your duties, quantify those results, no more than 2 pages, less is more. And it's tough for me to get to page 2 when I'm reading 154 resumes.
Yeah.
Update your technology section. It's okay to leave things off that people in a select industry have never heard of. Like, we used a software, I'm sure you heard of it, John, at Light Iron, called Farmer's Wife.
Yep.
And it was like the number one question I would get in interviews, like, what is that? And I would just have to explain. And then finally, I just took it off. It's like, no one out here is using that. So like, if you are applying in another industry and you have some obscure entertainment industry only technology on your resume, you may want to take it off if you don't want to have to explain that every time. This was another one. I really like having the references on your resume. And that can be on a third page, but just have it be the third page and nothing else on it.
Got it.
Because you want to save the recruiters as much time. Don't make them come back to you and ask for that. Like, give them that information up front. You're already being helpful in solving problems if you're doing that. And then add your certifications and networking groups. Like, I'm a member of Twin Cities SHRM. I'm going to put that on my resume.
Great.
Don't feel the need to list so if you've been with a company for 10 years and you started out as an assistant and you made it up to director and you maybe had like 5 different roles in there, you don't have to add every one. I would maybe, your most recent is definitely the best and most pertinent information. And then you can decide on how to take the achievements from those initial jobs and then work them into the bullet point for that final job. And when you get into the interview, you can say, hey, I started there as the assistant, as the office administrator, and I worked my way up to, director of such and such. And that's a cool job story that you can tell.
Great.
There's the PDF. Don't send your file in anything other than a PDF. It's not profesh. Don't include a photo. Don't use tiny fonts, small margins, or walls of text. You got to get that thing scanned. Take your graduation year off. Unless you just graduated, don't need it on there. Don't give them a reason to discriminate against you. Like, just don't. Like, they're not allowed to hire based on age. I guarantee it happens. Not with me, but it definitely happens. Don't use industry jargon or abbreviations that people won't get. I just spell it out, write the words, and then overuse buzzwords like synergy or dynamic. that always, all right, well, we had ChatGPT write our resume, I guess. So there's my do's and don'ts. There's goods and bads on using ChatGPT.
Yeah.
You gotta always put your own voice on what it's writing for you.
Yeah.
And then I just have some of the LinkedIn things that we talked about. You can Google your name plus LinkedIn, and it might show an odd bit of information that you maybe didn't see on your profile.
Yeah.
I like to put up by your name. So like, it's like Dana Blumberg, Director of Operations, and then like keywords. So innovative people leader, it was like /. So that's kind of a cool thing that people are doing now, putting that in there right up at the top by their name. Current professional photo, ensure your resume and profile match. Pay for pro. I was talking about that earlier. It's worth to see who's looking. Take advantage of LinkedIn Learning. Connect. Definitely connect with people. Reach out. Ask for help. It is a community. There's a lot of goofy posting on it now, like I said earlier, but it really is a community, and people just want to help each other. And it never hurts to ask, like, hey, how did you get this certification? How did you get to this level? I'm interested in what you're doing. I'd love to hear how you got there. Just start. And then that is when you are remembered in someone's mind. Like, oh, hey, I remember that John person that reached out to me and they're looking for this kind of job. I'm going to connect them.
When you reach out to a recruiter, is there a specific strategy that you employ to kind of not get clustered in with just everyone else? Because I imagine they're getting bombarded with people, right?
They are. I would say, like, if you're applying to a job on LinkedIn and the person who posted its profile is attached to it, always send them a direct message. Be like, hey, I just applied for this job. I'm so very interested. And I really love what you're doing there. Or if it's a recruiter for a company, I'm so interested in this company. I'd love your help getting in front of someone to talk about the role. That always makes a personal touch. And not everybody does that. It's very easy to just go and apply. And I can always tell when someone is just like blanket applying to jobs that they're just applying, they're not qualified for. And that really irritates me, because it's like, you're wasting my time looking through your resume when I could be looking at someone who's actually interested in this job. And they told me so by reaching out to me directly. If there isn't a job poster profile linked to the job post, go to the company's LinkedIn page, go to the people tab, find HR in that page and be like, hey, I just applied. You can send them a direct message. I just applied. I really am excited about your company and what you're doing, and I want to talk with you about my skills. So Always take that time to take that extra step.
Yeah.
Reach out to, if you were in a job where you used a recruiter to place somebody in that job, or you knew that a recruiter placed somebody at your company, reach out to them. They'll know of you, or they'll have worked with you. Be like, all right, hey, scratch my back this time, and then we'll scratch your back the other time. So don't be afraid to ask for favors, because you never know what it's going to come back around.
Great.
Yeah. And then the networking, there's the story about the 500 to 700 jobs. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a job because of someone who knows someone who knows someone who needs someone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we went through all of this, but these were my slides. Yay. I made a slideshow.
Thank you for providing all of this too. This is super handy. And it's okay to have a few people reach out and
absolutely. Anytime.
Terrific. Well, thank you. Thank you again, Dana. I really appreciate you.
You're so welcome. I hope it was helpful. A lot of this stuff I was like, is this like...
It's all these are all addressing questions that we've been asked by people. Okay. So it's all incredibly helpful. Thank you again so much. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight and being part of this and asking cool questions. And have an excellent night and a good rest of the year. Bye everyone.
Good to see you, John.
Bye.